This is Kevin Pruitt, and this is the Return to Rising Tide Startups. This is our very first recap episode, and my very first guest on the podcast, other than hearing myself talk on the pilot episode, was Nathan Mills of BeyondtheGuitar. Nathan, thanks for joining us again tonight.
Yeah, it's good to be back. It's crazy. It's been 6 months already.
Man, you don't look a day older.
Oh, well, I try. You either.
Now I know you're lying. Well, I'm sporting my England World Cup hat, and I just got done watching them lose to Croatia. But they played really well, and we'll just have to try it again in 4 years. But my adopted country there.
That's right. Yeah.
So give us a quick recap once again, but especially for listeners that may not have heard the first episode. What is BeyondtheGuitar?
So BeyondtheGuitar is my brand YouTube channel where I create music videos of classical guitar arrangements. So that's like solo fingerstyle guitar of music strictly from movies, TV, and video games. So I take the music from, for example, Star Wars or Lord of the Rings or popular video games and adapt them to the guitar to be played on one instrument.
Wow. Was there something that, and I don't know if I remember if I asked you this the first time, was there some trigger that caused you to marry those two things together, the classical guitar and kind of the theme of what the songs that you would play?
Yeah, it was when it's been a couple of years. I was working a day job, and I'd always wanted to do more with music, but all the traditional paths just didn't really interest me. Like, the initial plan was to teach at a university, and I kind of fell out of love with that concept, and touring and all that stuff never really spoke to me. And so creating content online was always something that I wanted to do, and it kind of happened very slowly. I hopped on Vine, if you remember that thing. There were people
the 7-second video.
Yeah, they were actually making music covers on Vine. Like literally, it was like 6 seconds, just enough to get. And so actually, like movie themes or video game themes, lots of times worked perfectly for that because it was just 6 seconds to get that little melody or that motif across, and you were done. And so that's actually, I started toying around with the concept then, back before I started YouTube or anything like that. And again, I started doing that just because it was a marriage of the two things that I love and consider myself to be, fairly knowledgeable about. I have multiple degrees in classical guitar performance, and I've always been, a gamer, and I love movies, and I love the soundtracks that go with that. When I was a little kid, I used to have my little Game Boy with Legend of Zelda, and I would put my old cassette player right beside my Game Boy and just hit record and let it just record the soundtrack onto there so I could listen to it at night. So it was just, it was a way to marry the two things that I've always loved. And there also seemed to be a little bit of a vacuum on YouTube, which is rare. Everything is so saturated. There wasn't too many guitarists who were doing what I want, that concept at a very high level. There was definitely a few that were doing it really well, but it wasn't nearly as saturated as many other genres or other concepts that I could have, thought of.
Right, and they were probably using it more of an acoustic or an electric guitar versus actually a classical, marrying the classical with the kind of the modern.
Yeah, that's very true. I kind of niched down even further. Right.
Oh, come on, brother! You speak French. You gotta say it right.
I know every time I do that, but then I say niche, and then they're like, "Ooh, French." I just gotta blend in,
There you go. That's right. You're contextualizing.
Except I messed it up.
So tell me, since last we talked in early January, so what's kind of the big rocks that have changed? What's changed in your life, and specifically with BeyondtheGuitar?
So I continue after we last spoke. I continued doing what I was doing, which is putting out regular content. I shoot for, a music video every week. Sometimes that doesn't always happen. Sometimes, I end up doing maybe, only 3 a month, but
Mm-hmm.
but that's kind of still the trajectory that I've been going. And kind of the major things that happened since we last spoke was I had a few videos that did really, really well. So most people have at least heard the word Fortnite.
Yeah.
It's massively popular video game right now, and so I'm always listening and looking out for what's popular in the movie, TV, gaming space. A lot of this stuff I'm familiar with already because again, I'm in that world.
Right.
And so Fortnite is a game that I play, and so I was familiar with that, and it was, not to bore you with long details about what the game is, but I was like, I knew how massively popular it was. People were making careers out of this game.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I wish that I could do something related to this game, but music wasn't really there wasn't much of a soundtrack for this game. But your characters, basically the way that the game makes money is you can purchase these different dances, kind of like victory dances that your character can do, and people like love it, and they spend all kinds of money on these dances, and each dance has a song that plays along with it. And so I was like, I'm going to adapt those songs in these dances and play them on guitar, just like what I do with everything. And it was just kind of a perfect storm of nobody had really done that. I think somebody put a piano version like literally like a day or two before I had done that.
Right.
And so, yeah, I was one of the first people to do that concept, and the game itself was massively popular. And the way I was able to do it was just kind of the video itself was kind of catchy, and the way that, just the way that I structured it just worked really well, that it caught on, and it got, I think it's over, like 6.5 million views now on YouTube. And then a month later, I did like a follow-up part 2 for that because they released more dances, and that's got a couple million. I did an Avengers video, since Avengers Infinity War came out, and that's got like 1 million views.
Wow.
So just because of that, I went from, I think when we last spoke, I was probably maybe like 40,000 subscribers, something like that on YouTube, and now I'm at 152,000.
More than tripled.
Yeah, so
Wow.
that really kind of blew things up. So yeah, that's kind of the biggest excitement and biggest change that's happened since we last spoke.
So I think they weren't tuning in to listen to the music. I think they were just tuning in to see you in a blue wig.
Right.
In that video. And for those
Exactly.
listening to this, you gotta go to YouTube and find the Beyond the Guitar channel and look at his Fortnite video. He dons a rather dashing blue wig, I think, with a headband or something like that, and from what I remember. So
I wish I could say that was the most ridiculous thing that I've done for a video, but
that's all right.
there's much more than that.
Got to catch the attention. That's exactly
right. Get that thumbnail. Right, that was actually the thing.
That was one of the feedback. That's right.
Right, that blue wig hits you right in the face as you're scrolling YouTube.
It does. Well, speaking of YouTube, you got something sitting beside you that I think when we put this on YouTube, people love to see especially your Patreon fans and your YouTube subscribers. So why don't you hold that up and tell us what it is? Yeah.
So as part of the big, growth that happened, I got the Silver Play Button, which is a milestone reward that YouTube sends you once you surpass 100,000 subscribers on your channel. And it was crazy. I mean, I had made my goal when New Year's hit. I was thinking like, what are my goals for this year with Beyond the Guitar? And as a stretch goal, I was like, I want to hit 100,000 subscribers by the end of the year. And but that was like reaching at my growth at that point. It was like if I ramped up my growth a little bit, it might be possible. But by the end of the year, I reached it a couple months ago. So it was just surreal to get that in the mail because it's like, I think lots of times there's this kind of what's it called, like imposter syndrome?
Imposter syndrome, yeah.
Yeah, where it's like, I'm like, I still don't call myself a YouTuber, but technically I guess I could. That's mostly what I do. But I just getting that kind of just hit me. It was like, wow, like it kind of did legitimize. I just felt like it kind of helped solidify what I'm doing. I mean, and of course it's silly. It's just a little, but seeing it just kind of, I don't know, it's surreal to me.
But it's those types of things that I'm sorry to interrupt. It's those types of things that move you from hobby to career.
Right.
I mean, you to the silly little thing, silly little plaque or whatever, but that really is just recognition of something that has really happened that's pretty substantial.
Yeah.
In your life in the last 6 months. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
No. Yeah. I mean, I have it, mounted proudly back on my nerd shrine back there. So in my videos now you can kind of see it, and it's just, it's a cool reminder to have there as far as, we were actually talking before the interview. I've had some students mention that it was funny that I have that kind of mounted proudly front and center, but I have master's degree in classical guitar performance. I couldn't even tell you where my diploma is. And it's not that I'm not proud. I mean, I am proud of that accomplishment, but in a way I feel like, I'm honestly more proud of this because just of what it means, and the fact that classical guitar is such a niche thing,
there you go.
And there are, as niche as it is, there are a lot of guitarists who have master's degrees, lots of classical guitarists, but there aren't a lot of classical guitarists who have a silver play button and who've reached that milestone. So it's it's really encouraging to see that happen.
Well, I think it's also more pertinent to what you're doing right now. I mean, It's something that you can look at and say, hey, I am currently engaged with YouTube. I mean, that's kind of my, my primary channel that I engage with my tribe or my audience. So it's just been incredible to see. I mean, we live in the same city. We see each other fairly frequently. It's just been amazing to see the growth, though, that's happened. I sent Nathan a text earlier today, and I said, 6 months from now, I'm going to have to be going through his booking manager to get him on Skype. So it is, man. I appreciate you just taking the time tonight and just recapping, just kind of the last 6 months. And as you looked at the feedback report that our listeners provided, was there kind of one thing or one or two things that you think stood out that you kind of somewhat utilized in the last 6 months that's kind of helped you, move it to the next level, so to speak?
Yeah, I think there was a lot of great, very helpful feedback, a lot of which I have every good intention to employ, some of which I'm more successful at than others. I think my DNA is not entrepreneurial. Which I think is also, I always try to tell people that because I think it's encouraging to hear, even though I might feel like I'm stumbling around in the dark half the time, just trying to figure things out as I go. A lot of this doesn't come naturally, and I don't necessarily have that DNA that just loves to dive into the analytics and everything like that and different things like that. That's just not, it doesn't come naturally to me. And so the fact that, I'm still able to, it's still working, and I'm still able to make it work, hopefully is encouraging to some people. And again, it's something that I still am, working on getting better at. So a lot of the feedback was things that I can use to get better in that area. As far as one of the things was working in my business, not on it, I think was the term. Is that, or did I
on the
reverse
business,
that?
not in
on
it.
the
Yeah,
business, not
exactly.
in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of the things under that was as far as coming up with a specific schedule as far as how you prioritize different aspects of the, because it's a creative business, but on the back end of that, there's so much logistical work, and just like with anything, that if I don't structure it well, it takes away from my time on. So I have one of the things that I've implemented, fairly successfully that I'm getting better at is prioritizing. It's a combination of that concept that they mentioned and the 80-20 rule, where I'm trying to focus on what it is about my business, what tasks actually really push the needle forward.
Sure.
As for whether that's, for revenue or whether that's for audience growth.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm trying to structure my week based on that. So all those tasks that really push the needle forward, I load up on the front end of my week, and then I push other tasks back to the end. I used to try to respond to every single YouTube comment, every single email, everything like that. And I've actually started to where I don't check my email at the beginning of every day anymore, because I know that where some opportunities come through email is a large part of my business currently. That's not what's really pushing the needle forward. That's just, again, little logistical things, or just audience engagement, which is important, but I can do that later after I do I've got to put in, 15 to 20 hours of working to make an arrangement and practicing that, and just the meat and potatoes of my business. So that's been a big thing that's helped with my efficiency, I think.
Well, that's I was looking at the feedback report right before we came on, and being privy to knowing you and seeing some of the growth things, even firsthand, it's just been amazing to see. And this was, the feedback. I know who provides feedback. I generally know the people that are speaking into this at some level, because they are part of our tribe. But we've got some really gifted individuals that are providing feedback, that have a vast amount of experience and are really really good at what they do. And they're business consultants and they're coaches and so it's not just people's opinion they're just winging out there. It really does have some experience and some wisdom behind it. But I just wanted to just catch up with you after 6 months and just kind of want to close out with maybe a couple of really kind of quick fire questions. But is there one thing that you could pinpoint that over the last 6 months that you think, other than doing the fortnight cover or fortnight covers, that you say, okay, this I can almost look at this one thing and this just kind of just really exponentially changed the landscape of Beyond the Guitar? Was there one thing, or would you really say it was the fortnight cover that just really kind of changed everything?
I'd say as far as the biggest changes, all just came out of that probably. I've got probably within another 6 months, it'll probably be a different answer, because I do have some new projects and stuff that I'm working on, as far as kind of taking another direction or adding to my current direction, also like instructional content and things like that. So I've started taking steps toward that again might be like a kind of a pivoting point that I can point back to 6 months from now. But I'd say currently, it's just those pieces of content that kind of went crazy are the big, that
was a
moments.
Huge jump in subscribers. You could almost tie back to those two covers.
Right. Yeah, it really was. It was like when you looked at my analytics, it was just like, it just the wall just went straight up.
Yeah.
And so it's been a learning experience through that. I think that would be my encouragement for anybody. Like, I think a lot of people chase viral content, and there's nothing wrong with that, but it's been interesting too. I've had a few pieces of content that have gone viral like that, and it's interesting. What you learn on the other side of that is that it's not always. There's lots of good that comes out of it, but it's it's not necessarily as career making sometimes as you might think too. So it's been a good learning experience as far as like, what do I do next? Like, it's not like you have a piece of viral content and then you're set. It's like, how do you capitalize on that? How do you continue to keep those people engaged? And so that's been kind of the challenge for me moving, that I'm always trying to think about now, is how do I continue to, without becoming a Fortnite channel, how do I continue to keep all these new people engaged and as well as my long-term supporters as well. So yeah,
that's really an interesting take on because you've seen kind of the arrow rise on the graph, but you're thinking, okay, how much of this is a Fortnite blip, and how much of it is are these sustainable, tribe members of Beyond the Guitar? So that's really interesting.
Right.
Let me ask you, if you could go back. I mean, I asked this question in the first time we chatted, but I mean, things have changed dramatically in the last 6 months. What advice would you go back and even give yourself 6 months ago? If you could go back 6 months, what's one piece of advice that you would give yourself today?
I think one thing that's been really on my heart a lot lately is just like contentment, because I think especially with any type of business, you're always kind of trying to push to that next level, and okay, what's the next milestone, or how can I grow in this way, or how can I ramp up my income in this way, or grow my audience in this way. And I think if you don't have the right mindset, you'll find that whenever you do reach that next milestone, you're only looking to the next milestone, and you're always reaching. And so I think I would just tell myself to just take a moment and look at where you are, and be grateful for where you are, and how many or how few people you have that care about your work. Just really pour into their lives as much as you can. Again, regardless of how many or how few it is, because none of us are guaranteed that,
Yeah.
So those are the people so I guess, think about the people that you have, not the people that you're trying to get.
That is great advice. And regardless of whether you have 10 followers or you have 10 million. So it's,
right.
I appreciate you kind of wrapping up with that. Is there anything that I haven't asked you about that you want to just tell our listeners to, any promos you got going on, plug yourself here.
I would just appreciate anybody just checking out my music. If I can make your life better in any way by, instilling some beautiful tunage into your days, then you can just find me anywhere at BeyondtheGuitar. Like I was hinting at before, I'll be launching some instructional content within the next few months. And so anybody who's interested in taking up their guitar skills, if you have any guitarists listening, then we'll be doing some of that as well. And just make sure you give Kevin all kinds of love, and this podcast all kinds of love, and share it all everywhere, because he's awesome. And Kevin, you've been a huge encouragement to me all along the way. I don't take that for granted. So,
well, Nathan, I appreciate it. I could not have chosen somebody that I would have enjoyed more to launch this new endeavor, and it's just been a blast the last 6 months, and it's just really good to see. You kind of really, we joked about it, but you truly have moved Beyond the Guitar to the next level, and I mean, it's been just a consistent, passionate pursuit, and you have really been faithful at providing good content and working hard and trying to do the right things to in essence serve your tribe. And I mean, obviously the numbers are bearing that out. So people are fickle. If you don't do what you say you're going to do, they're not going to stay. And it's just been good to see this happen. But Nathan, I appreciate you, buddy, and once again, it's just cool to recap this and to return to Rising Tide after 6 months. And this is why we do this. We said we're going to follow up in 6 months, and it's just good to kind of see the changes and the growth that's happened. And listeners, this is now your time just to continue to share this content, and just keep in mind that just the basic premise of the show is that all boats rise in a rising tide. Nathan, thanks again.